Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Jairaj Bhattacharya, who is the co-founder and CEO of ConveGenius, which is an EdTech social enterprise. Hi, Jairaj. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hi Priya, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Very good, very good. Yeah,
So,
excited to speak here. Yeah,
likewise. So, Jairaj, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how did you land up into entrepreneurship?
right, Priya. So, me and my co-founders, all of us are techies. We graduated around 2010 and 2011 among all of us. So, I am a electronics and computer science engineer from IIIT Hyderabad.
Mhm.
So, I was a research engineer while I was studying. I went to Singapore for a research job in Nanyang Technological University and was actually researching how do we actually break the digital divide
Mhm.
that India was going to have. So this is 2010, 2011, right? At that point of time, iPad was just introduced. Tablet as a form factor was being introduced into the system. Smartphones were there, but tablet was being introduced into the system.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of excitement in how do we use tablets in education. And as a researcher, I was looking at what would be the potential to get low cost tablets in the hand of children and to be able to solve for the education problem. Because largely in India, the problem is access to quality education because the quality of teachers in the mass market is not in our control. Because, basically teaching per se, mass students here in India are learning from government schools, right?
Mhm.
70% of students in India are in government schools. 25 of them are in affordable budget and private schools in India. Only the cream, right? The cream of 10 million students out of the 250 million students are getting access to good quality education. So there was a real big role of tech to
Mhm.
play and solve for the equity problem in education.
Okay.
So this was something which we were looking at. I was researching, and my co-founders were actually working in their first job that time. So we used to chat a lot of the possibility of changing and disrupting India is where there is a potential when we change education, right? If we
Mhm.
change the education system and the next generation of population gets educated differently, then we are able to have a macroeconomic impact for the country.
Okay.
So it's a long-term game, right? It's not a short-term game that we wanted to, build the organization for. So this inspiration kind of drove me back. I left Singapore, came back to India. My co-founder Shashank quit his job in Bank of America. So both of us started out of a garage in Mathura.
Mhm.
Mathura is where my co-founder actually lives. So it was a very cheap location to start from.
Right.
Uh, and the idea was to first explore how do we actually solve this problem because India is not the cities, right? India is about villages. India is about rural towns. It's areas like Kargil, Leh, where there's no mobile connectivity,
Mhm.
Arunachal Pradesh, right? To solve this, we'll really have to solve for those areas. So I think the first 5 years were about really finding the product market fit.
Mhm.
So how do we get the power to teach and learn on every mobile device? That was really the problem we were solving, right? That India will have a smartphone in every household. That
Mhm.
was very clear. And internet is one way or the other going to come in, right, in the next 10 years to every household. So the real problem is how do we get that window to provide teaching and learning experiences on a click of a mobile device?
Mhm.
So that was kind of what we were chasing. So that's how ConveGenius began with that mission, the mission to teach 100 million children.
Got it. And right now, I think you have two flagship platforms, ConveGenius and SwiftChat.
Yes.
So, for the people who might be new to your work, can you explain how these platforms work, what makes them
Right.
unique, and how they complement each other in enhancing the educational outcomes?
So when we started ConveGenius, right, we did not know how to really solve this problem, but we knew that we will be solving this problem. So ConveGenius became a social enterprise with a mission, the mission to provide education for 100 million children, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as part of that, we were experimenting with various products, right? The first product we launched in 2017 was personalized and adaptive learning on schools software, school systems. So every school generally had one computer lab, right? Even if it is a government school, you had that one computer lab where there were 4 or 5 computers on which you could run the computer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
our idea was that if we are able to get the software on that computer lab, we will give access to the student in the last mile in the village, right? Because at least computer labs are there. So that
Mm-hmm.
was the first starting point for us. So 2017 we launched our first product called PAL, CG Slate PAL,
Okay.
and then we also bundled it with a partnership with OEMs like Samsung and Lenovo with a tablet
Mm-hmm.
based solution. And this took off, and I think we got our first real big success in 2019 when the government actually recognized that this is working, right? This solution actually delivers learning outcomes. So they started looking at it very seriously in terms of looking at least 10% of the schools using this software, right? So that was our first big breakthrough when it started getting recognized at the policy level.
Okay.
But as we were gaining momentum, COVID happened. So COVID happened in 2020, right? As we were growing, we were profitable at that point also. So we were roughly in 1,200 schools, about 500,000 students across India
Mm-hmm.
in 1,200 schools. Out of the 1,200 schools, 800 schools were government schools. Remaining were affordable budget and private schools, budget private schools, affordable private schools, right? Tuition centers, there were learning centers also using this product.
Mm-hmm.
So it took us almost 7 years to get to 500,000 students, right? First 7 years was just to get there because we had one product which was working and delivering learning outcomes in ConveGenius.
Okay.
And then COVID happened and schools got shut. So we were back to zero because schools are shut. So the children cannot use these devices, right? These devices were in school or in their tuition centers. So at home, they didn't have devices. They only had their parents' phone. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a very interesting period, right? Because we were back to the drawing board in COVID. And during COVID, we took two bold decisions, right?
Okay.
Uh, while all of us were working from home, right? So one thing we were sure that we were an innovative company. We will not do any layoffs, and we will continue growing and innovating with all the workforce we have.
Mm-hmm.
So all through COVID, we actually grew exponentially. And the story behind that is that we did one acquisition. So while we had built personalized and adaptive learning ourselves, we were not doing assessments. Assessment is a key part of solving for the education problem, right? Unless we know where the child is, we do not know how to teach them. So
Right.
you need to you need to have a diagnostic center, do a blood test before you give them medicine, right? So
Mm-hmm.
similarly, we need to know where the child is in math before we can give them good learning experiences. So it made sense for us to acquire Grey Matters India. It was, I think, number two in the assessment space at that point of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we took that bold move and we did our first acquisition in 2020. And with that, we launched our second product, which was assessments along with learning, right? So with our capability of tech, we were able to do digital assessments. So basically, we now had two products, and digital assessments could be done at home. So there we started thinking of how do we give better digital assessments to our children, and that's when it kind of clicked between us as co-founders that what Bharat is having one app. Everyone is having one app in Bharat. Which one is it, right? It's WhatsApp, right?
Right.
WhatsApp is with everyone, right?
Yeah.
So WhatsApp is in the phone of my grandmother, is in the phone. Any phone has WhatsApp, right? And
Right.
WhatsApp is the most used app. And why is it most used, right? It's because it's simple. It's easy to use. बहुत easy है, right? You don't need to teach someone how to use WhatsApp.
Yes.
You're just messaging them. So the adoption is basically not required, right? You don't need to teach them how to adopt the product.
Hmm.
So we got an idea to integrate our assessment product inside WhatsApp. We create a bot, a simple chat bot on which a child would say hi, and the bot will say hi back. Hi, Priya. Today's assessment is will be in maths, and it will start asking you questions, right? You respond to those questions, and it asks you more questions, and that way, the AI bot will understand, where you are, and will
Hmm.
give your teachers reports. Will give the government reports about the status of the children in India, right? So we built a simple WhatsApp bot, and this is July in first wave of COVID when we launched it. The first
Hmm.
state we launched it was in Himachal Pradesh. They were desperately looking for assessments, right? And because schools were shut and there was no action happening, right? Really in the government systems. So we launched Har Ghar Pathshala, our first assessment bot, and in 3 days it broke WhatsApp, right? Now the story is that we didn't know whether our system broke or WhatsApp broke, right? But when we launched the WhatsApp bot, it reached almost 500,000 users in 3 days. So it took
Wow.
us 500,000 users for in the first 7 years of our journey. But when we launched the WhatsApp bot, it got us 500,000 users in 3 days, 5 lakh users. And that broke WhatsApp because WhatsApp's business API was not built for this kind of a use case where children are learning through a AI bot, right?
Hmm.
And that got us to the Eureka moment, right? That simple things work, right? When you have something very simple as WhatsApp messaging, where the child just needs to say hi, and it responds back, and you just message back. There was 99% completion rate, right, across the 500,000 students. So that was a big game changer for us. So we started scaling on WhatsApp, right? We scaled our various assessment and adaptive learning usage. We built bots for homework, for remediation, for teacher assessment, teacher capacity building, many different assessment and learning use cases on WhatsApp.
Hmm.
And we scaled this across states, and states started giving us word of mouth reference, right? Because this was the only way children could learn in government schools in
Correct.
India. Because live classes like these Zoom classes are impossible. Internet is not supporting live classes in India,
Hmm.
right? In rural villages. So WhatsApp works, but
Correct.
live does not work. So this was the way in which children were learning during COVID. So
Hmm.
we became the largest consumer of the WhatsApp's business API in the world. Second was COVID during this phase from COVID wave 1 to COVID wave 2, right? In that phase, we became the largest. We were doing almost a billion messages because a lot of the education system was reliant on the infrastructure that we had built. And that's where we faced a lot of issues because of the digital infrastructure being dependent on API, which we are not in control of, right? And there were throughput limitations, rate limitations on WhatsApp's business API. So they publicly announced a 15,000 requests per minute, but it scales up to about 35-40,000 requests per minute. But a typical state will go to at least 100,000 requests per minute, right?
Hmm.
So the infrastructure for handling population scale education required to build a product, right? And you needed to build the messaging layer yourself, right?
Hmm.
So that's when we raised our first institutional round of funding to build SwiftChat, right? SwiftChat was a platform that was built so that population scale, 100 million children can learn, and it will not break, right?
Hmm.
Messaging will not break. So
Correct.
we built it similar to WhatsApp. The difference what it was for use cases like education, skilling, AI for good, right? We built it in a format that it can scale beyond education also in the future, right? So we launched SwiftChat in 2021, and we moved our first bot onto SwiftChat. It got to 1 million users in a week, right? And that was how we started. And SwiftChat grew in the last 3 years, right? It's been a 3-year journey, 21 to now 24. Now we almost have 150 million plus profiles, 75 million plus unique users, right? 800,000 schools in the country, which is almost 40% of schools using SwiftChat platform today, right? And it worked because of the simplicity, right? It's like WhatsApp, you just chat, you can converse, but then we also launched games and mini apps and a lot of other features on SwiftChat, right? So it became like a whole bot store for education. And then we launched a natural language processing, generative AI features. With ChatGPT coming in, we also um, kind of catalyzed the overall AI functionalities a lot more onto SwiftChat. And there is a lot of AI work happening. And children are actually consuming AI-based applications for learning and teaching today on SwiftChat. Yeah, so that's the short brief of our journey on how SwiftChat happened from ConveGenius. ConveGenius continues to build products on SwiftChat. SwiftChat is the platform. So you can imagine this as a inbred in-ground platform that we built so that we are not dependent on platforms like Telegram, WhatsApp, Signal, right? So that we have our own platform on which we can make it work on India's policies, right? India's policies keep changing. So we have the control on how do we kind of build the platform to work with India's education policies. Yeah.
The way I see it, I think you are building the next WhatsApp for the new kids out there. I think.
Yes, but we took a conscious choice, Priya, conscious choice to not do peer-to-peer communication, right? It is communication between user and AI, right? It is not user to user. You and me, we can't chat on SwiftChat today. Reason is there is no use case for people to chat on SwiftChat because they're already chatting on WhatsApp, right? Uh, so peer-to-peer communication was why WhatsApp grew big, right? I think there is a space for communicating with AI applications on SwiftChat because the future is a combination of human and AI, solving real problems and AI for good, right? There will be AI avatars for your various public goods, right? For your electricity bill, you can just chat with a electricity bill bot, right? That's the future, right? Everything will have AI agents, right? So there, I think SwiftChat will play a big role because it is reaching the last mile. It is reaching the end user, the grassroots, the villagers, right? And we will be able to solve the impact problem really with SwiftChat. WhatsApp is not going away.
Speaking of future, how do you foresee Indian EdTech ecosystem? Because lately there has been a lot of companies going bankrupt, and EdTech is not picking up pace. In fact, it is going down in most of the cases. So, what do you foresee?
So, yeah, so largely the Indian edtech ecosystem is an education first approach, Priya, right? So, in an education first approach, right, it is very important to deliver on educational learning outcomes. And those that deliver on learning outcomes are the one that will survive, right? And largely in the competitive edtech segment, there are a lot of big unicorns and also profitable businesses, right? Like Alan, Physics Wala is also doing very well if they continue to focus on, delivering on ranks, learning outcomes, right? So I think if you are an education first organization, right, you have to deliver on learning outcomes. That is your core. If you're a technology first organization, you are not an ed tech, right? You're a technology infrastructure play focused on education as one category, right? So I think really education edtech as a category will grow, and it will have those survivors who are delivering on learning outcomes. And I think those which are unable to deliver learning outcomes, they will diversify into a technology company probably to survive, right? Otherwise, I see very in the long term, edtech companies not able to survive without showcasing outcomes. Outcomes become a key part of edtech, right? But definitely funding has dried up, and EdTech as a category is not seen very well in the VC and private equity space.
Got it. Uh, my next few questions around entrepreneurship, probably our last segment.
Hmm.
Tell us what has been your learning about entrepreneurship? Like, how do you define the process of entrepreneurship? Who would you call as entrepreneur? And what are the skill sets or mindsets are required for entrepreneurship?
So I think, firstly, Priya, what has actually helped us, survive, and we are now 10 years in the journey, right? Is our 10th year. Is that as an entrepreneur, first thing you will have to always keep learning, right? How much ever big you are as an organization, you can fail, right? You have seen failures, right? So you need to have the humility to keep learning. You'll have to stay really foolish, at least. You have to seem and stay foolish and curious all the time. And if you are curious and you're agile, then you will continue to innovate because the world is changing, right? It is always changing faster in the tech space compared to other spaces because technology is changing rapidly. And unless you have the mentality and the mind space to keep learning, right, you won't stay relevant. At some point, someone else will innovate and become better, right? So I think if you define it, it is about creative destruction, right? You need to have the mentality to destroy your own products continuously to build new products, right, which are better. So
Hmm,
so
got it.
continuously you have to creatively destroy and create new stuff. So it's a dynamic programming problem, literally.
I think that's a interesting definition of entrepreneurship, and I'll probably quote this one. My final question, and this is around failures. Tell us what roles do failures play into an entrepreneur's life or anybody's life in general?
Failures are most important, I think, to be a good entrepreneur. You have to continuously fail and you have to create an environment to also fail quickly, right? It's about, how do you fail fast and learn. And so, I mean, uh, it is about testing, right? And having that mentality that this is okay to fail and continuously testing that, okay, this is failed, this is failed, this is failed. Okay. And this is working. And then, so being honest to yourself is very important that it's okay to fail. And then try and find that PMF, right? Product market fit. And PMF is continuously required. It's not just required one time, right? Once you have got one success, that doesn't mean you're going to stay relevant. You might stay relevant for a year or 2 years. We have to continuously keep finding PMFs. So the ability to fail is very important as an entrepreneur.
Well, on this note, we will close the session. Thanks for joining us, Jairaj. I would say that you are making a real impact at the bottom of the pyramid and you are solving real problems. And kudos to you. I really enjoyed the conversation and I think you are doing a fantastic job as an entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us and my best wishes for the venture you are building.
Thank you. Thank you.